Hi, this is the continuation video where I'm explaining AEM component dialog fields event handling. As part of this tutorial, we'll see how you can write an event handler for a drop-down change event, and based on that event, we'll hide and show the tabs. In last tutorial, I have already explained how to handle or write a change event for dropdown, and based on that change event, how to hide and show the container where all the containers are in same tab. In this tutorial, we'll see when you have multiple tabs and how to hide and show those tabs. Though this tutorial is sufficient to understand, but if you are straight away landed on this tutorial, I will highly recommend you to go back and please check this tutorial where I explain the basics of how to write granite class and how to write data element. So I will highly recommend you to go back and see the previous tutorial which I have published before this tutorial. Okay, so what are we going to achieve here? I have 5 tabs where in first tab I have a drop down and I have 4 other tabs, author 5, 6, 7 and 8. Each tab has its own field. So whenever I change any value in drop down, specific value associated to that tab should be visible. Let's say I choose first tab. By default the first tab will be selected, so the first tab will be shown, means author 5 value is selected, so first tab with name author 5 should be shown. If I change any value, based on the change the specific tab should be shown and other tab should be hidden. So that's the use case here. So the concept is exactly same what we have followed in last tutorial. I have a drop down and I have 5 tabs. So in that drop down I'll add a class CQ dialog drop down show hide. It's up to you whatever you want to add here. We'll write a handler, JavaScript or jQuery handler, or I would say the Coral UI handler based on whatever we added here. And I will add a data element as well, CQ dialog drop down show hide target, and I'll give a value starting with the dot because I will add this value in the class in target tab. So these two things I need in the drop down. For the tabs, I'll add 2 classes. One is hide. If you see here, this is my hide class. Another class is a specific class which I mention here in my target data element. You will notice here I mention value dot, so that when I try to find these tabs, I will find using classes, right? It is the same way I added here. Now I added an additional property called data property show hide target value, and this value should be matched to the items here in this drop down. Let's say I choose drop down number, let's say item number 5 means first, so the value of that item should be 5 here, right? So when I choose 6 here, the value of that item should be 6. Text can be anything. Ideally we gave author 6 and value is author small letters and then 6. Again, as I mentioned earlier, these value can be anything, whatever you want to write you can write, but you have to write event handler as per whatever you write here. Okay, we'll see that. So now you understood what you have to write, but the important part here is in case of tab, first you must understand how the tab component or the tab field in dialog is created. So if you go and see here the node structure, so first you have to define a tab, a node where it refer to my tab component, then items, and then you define multiple tabs here. But how you define tabs? So there is no specific component for tab. You have tab, and to add multiple tabs you define container here. Each tab is a container, right? Container is a multi-purpose component. You can use it anywhere, and it is a container type, means it hold other elements. So when you define container here, this will be defining one tab. So this is a one tab and this is another tab. So you define 2 tabs here, and whatever properties you will be added, this will be added to this container. We'll see that. And there is an additional node you can add, parent config. This node can define some other properties. Let's say if you want to add a specific tab active, let's say instead of the first tab you want to active onload a specific tab, so you can add these configuration. I will not add this now because intention of our tutorial is to make you understand event handling, right, instead of how to create this dialog. Okay, so this is important. Why I'm explaining this? This is important. This is really important, and you will understand why I did explain this here. Now let's see the real dialog. So I have first author info, and I have the drop down where 4 values, and then I have tabs, right? So each tab has its own field. So what I want, when I load the first, this item should be selected, and only the author 5 will be visible, or whatever the drop down item is selected, that tab should be visible, right? And when I change only the selected tab, let's say author 7, this author 7 should be shown, other tabs are hidden, right? So what we'll do, we'll use the existing event handler what we wrote for previous tutorial. That's why I said please go back and check the tutorial, okay, where I explain how to write, and each and every line I explained there, right? So we'll use that only. That's why I use exactly the same classes, same target, whatever. Now you will see how I created tab. So you will see here, this is my tab, and if you see here, I added this here, means a resource type to the Coral Foundation tabs. So the tab has been created. Now if you come here and you will see items, and I added 5 containers. First container, this is container, so this is the first tab, and title is author info. So you will see that author info here, exactly here, first one. Now other 4 containers, author 5, 6, these are the containers, right, which each container behave as a tab, right? This is how the tab component is created inside dialog. Now if you go to this drop down, this I have already explained. This drop down, I added this granite class. If you see here, my class and granite colon class. So if you want to add any class to component or the field, you have to use this property and whatever you have added here. So this is the class I have added, and to add a data node, you create a child node granite colon data, and you can add that property here. So if you see here, this property will be added as a data hyphen and whatever you added here, and whatever I define in PPT or the presentation, the value is here. Now this is my source, right? This is my drop down, who's the event I want to capture. Now other tabs, the tab I want to hide and show. So if you come here, these are my tabs, and I added here class, granite class, and this is the same whatever I define here, 2 classes, hide and whatever I define in the target element of my drop down. And again, if you want to add any class, you have to write a property granite colon class. To add a data, again as I explained, so this is the class I have added 2 classes, and inside this granite data I define show hide target value, and this value is whatever the value I define, that will be binded to each item. Let's say this one, this is the first item, you see the value is author 5. So if you come back here and you will see the text and value is author 5. So these values should be same to work it properly, right? This is how. The same way I added for other tabs as well. I did not write anything else. Now if you remember, what is the event handler we wrote in last tutorial, right? We'll use the same here, exactly same. I did not write any other. Okay, so let me open that to VS Code so that you can see it properly code. Ideally, I did not change anything. So what I think, right, earlier tutorial also I have containers. So ideally it should work as it is. I did not change anything, right? So this code work for the tab as well, right? My understanding is this, it should work, and ideally it should work. So now let me open this, right? Let me open this dialog, and when I open this, I see the all tabs are still visible. If I change here, nothing is happening, right? But if you see here, let me choose this first. If I go to the tab, the field of 5 tabs are visible. But if I go to the 6, nothing is visible here. No. right? So something field are hidden but not tab. So what is problem here? Ideally in last tutorial also we had containers, but those containers were in the same tab. So if I change here, let me choose 7, right? And if I go to the 7, now these fields are visible. So the containers where I added fields, those are still hiding and showing, but not the entire tab. So what is problem here? Now to understand this, you now must understand how the tab component in Dialog is created. Now we'll go to the documentation, right? Now let's see. Now you have to follow two approaches. Here I'll explain how you should initiate the process of understanding the dialog documentation, right? How dialogues are built, how the fields of dialogues are built. Now first thing you have to do, go to this tab. Let me close this, right? Let me go to tab here, tab node. Okay, where? Here is the tab node, right? Let me open this now. So my component is at this place, right? Let's go and check what is written there, right? So as I said, this is the relative path where this component will be either in apps or libs, right? If it is overridden in apps, it will be in apps. So I did not override this. This is a library component. So I'll go to libs now. Okay, go to libs. Let me select this libs and I'll just copy paste this path here. Okay, open. So this is the actually my component which is rendering my tab. So come here and if you open, all right, so open, it says now you must understand how you should see what is written in your component or the dialog field. So if you see, these are the properties. Every component you can see those stuff, right? You can add orientation, you can get size, merge, maximize, tracking, and name here, title, and the parent config. And here is the example which I showed you how you should write the tab. This is also written. Now this is the way. Now let's leave it here. Okay, now let's go back to my dialog. Right now I'll see what is the view source generated for this tab. Okay, so let's open this tool, go to the F12 and see. Right, let me choose this first here. So if I choose this and I go to tabs, see the tabs are selected here, right? All the tabs. But if I open here tabs, I don't see the content here. These are just tabs, right? These are just initial upper strip where tab names are there. So where this content, so if I select this, okay, let me choose, okay, 7th is chosen. So let's select 7 only, that's okay. And I want to see the content. Where is my content? So if I choose this content here. Now if you go, this is really important, you must understand here. So the content is here, right? Go back and if you see, content is under Coral-panel, right? And these Coral-panels are under Coral-panel stack. Right, but I don't see my tabs under this. So tabs are upper part. Now if I collapse this, see the two parallel elements, right? One is Coral-tab list where the tabs names are present, means upper strip is present, and another one in parallel there is a, you see the Coral-panel stack where this actual container stay, right, where my container may hold the container which is holding these items. But where my classes, right, I added few classes, I added few data element. Where are those, right? Even if I choose this, let's say this is my hidden, I don't see my classes here. I should see, right, where I'm hiding, showing based on those classes and data elements. Just open this further. Okay, again you see Coral-panel content. If you expand this again, let me do it again, you find something, and when you expand this again you find something, and you will find inside this, you will see this here wrapper, you will find a select. Why select? Because this is my first tab. This is my first tab where my drop down is. Now let's go to the second one. See here, this is disabled. If I open this, let's say then container, and Now this div, now you will see these are my classes which I added earlier, but why this inside, right? So you will see this is where my container started, right? The container here, what I added, see here, tabs and container. So I added my classes to this container, and if I show here again, this is important to understand, where you learn how to handle this kind of situations. Okay, so if you see, this is my container, this is my container, and I added all this stuff. So where my container is starting, my container is starting from here. So now let's see if we have any documentation for it, like tab component, which is actually built in my dialog. Do we have any documentation for it? And let's go and see the Coral UI documentation. So this is my documentation, the home page of my Coral UI 3 documentation. Let's go to the components, and you see where can you find tab in it. So if I scroll it and I try to find table, tab list, tab view, so you see the tab list and tab view, but I don't see any specific tab here. So what's happening here? If I open this tab list, so you will see that Coral tab list, and I find Coral tab list here. Let me go back a bit and let me show you this one, Coral tab list, right? But it this one, Coral tab list, which contain your tabs names, right, containers. And another one is a if you go here further, okay, where it is here, tab list and tab view, right? So see the tab view, but I didn't find anything which says tabs, right? So that means I don't have any documentation or any component which built entirely tab, right, in my dialog. So what you must understand here, the tab component in dialog is built using two different Coral UI component. One is, if you see here again, come back, so you will understand, this is my tab view, where it contain my this one, tab list and tab panel stack. So tab view is my parent, where I hold two. One is my tab list and this panel stack. Panel stack contain my actual fields, means my actual container, and this tab list contain only the list, right? So now the problem is here, and even if you see the code, right, you will understand what's happening here. This is important. By that way you can understand everything. Every time when you don't understand anything, go back here, check code, go to the documentation and see. See, the parent is Coral tab view. Now parent is Coral tab view, I'm creating tab list, and at bottom I'm creating this panel, Coral panel stack, right? So what I'm doing, I'm creating these two elements, and inside this include, I'm including my containers. This way you must understand here. Now you understood how it is happening, means how this dialog field is, creating. Now my container is still hide and showing. I'm okay with that. If you see here, this will be visible. Let's say this is 8 for 8. If I chose, this is come here and these are visible, right? So this is happening, but the problem is why these tabs are not happening. So somehow now these are two different elements, right, parallel. Now somehow if you check here, let's take example of second one, right, because it will be easy, right? Let me choose the second one, means the 6 or 5. Let's say choose 5. Okay, let me choose 5 here and come here. So what is happening? This is my, let me come back here and tab list. So this is my, this one. So this is my tab, under tab list, this is my this tab, right, which I have here. Now you will see what are element here, and you can go back and panel stack. What you'll see here inside panel stack, this one, right, this one 70. Okay, let me just open it once so that I can see. Okay, not this one, right, this one is container where my fields are exist, right? So somehow I should be able to relate these two. this one and what I chose here in this one. You will see this one and this one, right? So that I can hide this entire this is already hidden, right? Entire this panel, but somehow I should be able to hide this as well. But the problem is there is no component available which can handle this entire stuff, right? If you have already seen tutorial earlier, those might not work with Coral UI 3. Those may work for the foundation components, but not with the Coral foundation, right? So that's why that hide and show based on that script work for the containers which are there inside the single tab, right? Now you will find something here. So I'm able to find this tab for sure using my script whatever I have written earlier. So what I'll do, I'll go up and I'll find my this container, right? This one, panel, right? Then what I'll found somehow I'll be able to relate this. How will I be able to relate this? You will labeled by whatever written here and go back in 5. You will see here the tab ID. So ID of this is Coral ID -651, and here this area hyphen labeled by is the same. So I will relate these two, means the container, and my tab list using these two. I will use these two and I'll write some handlers so that I can hide and show. The important part is how you can relate these two, right? This upper one, this one, and whatever inside it. So you have to relate that and will manipulate that. This is the important. If you understood how this tab is built, you can easily write. Now you understood this. Now let's see how we can write a handler. Okay, now let's understand quickly how I'm writing this. So I have already explained earlier. So using this, I'm finding this class whatever I have added. I found this drop down and I got this drop down. Now I got this data element what I have added earlier there. So if you see here, this data element is present here, this one, right here. So now I found this. What I'm saying here now, Coral, I'm saying the change event. Before change, I have already said trigger this one, this method, right? On dialog load, I'm also calling this, and on change event also I'm calling this. So what I'm saying, coral.common.ready. So this is the Coral UI methods, means event for event handling. What it does, this will fire when entire element is ready, entire dialog component is ready. So what I'm doing here now, this is the catch here. This will, you must understand. Now let me first go to the tab here. So you see here I found the value, whatever is the value in drop down, and I found target, all the target. And what are target? Where I found this. So these are the panels where these contain the target, this contain the target, and I found all the containers where the value match or doesn't match. First it will hide all. So what I'm doing here, I hide all the containers, right? Now what I'm saying, go to this one here, this one, and find the closest Coral panel stack. Means I want to hide what is the parent element which contain all the containers. So which is those? This is those, right? This contain all my these containers, right? So I find this. What I'm saying here in next line, find the sibling of it, and which is Coral tab list. So I found this and I found this one. So these two first contain my tab list and second contain my containers which contain actual fields of my tab. So what I'm saying here, now I'm iterating all of these, means all of this one, right? This second one, panel stack, where I contain the containers. What I'm saying, find these values, show hide target values, and I found this. So what I'm saying here, this is just I'm checking null, right? If something is undefined. Why I'm checking this undefined? Because my first one, this one, is also a tab, right? The first one, but I'm not hiding and showing it, right? So this doesn't have those values. So that's why I'm just checking a undefined, if anything is undefined. So what did I say? I got the value here, the show target value, which will be the value. If you see here, let's say come here for this one, and let's say for this, I found this thing here, this whole stuff, and this is the value of my drop down item. So what I'm saying, find this area hyphen labeled by. Once I found this one, okay. So what I said, if value there and value I found here is same, if it is same, then what should I do? I found this item, means whatever is there, area labeled by this one, right? You come here, element, and I found this, and I add a property called selected. This will select actually a tab, and here also I'm saying tab list. Now I went to tab list, where it is tab list, where I found this one, children. I filter children based on ID is equal to show tab ID, which I found here, right? This one I labeled by, I got it labeled by, and I say remove class. So what happened, the tab, entire tab will be visible. If it is not true, then hide everything. So what happened now, my container was hidden earlier as well, but now what is happening, using, I'm relating this, let me come here. First I found this, from this I go to the parent, I found is area hyphen labeled by, then I go to the tab list, I search all the tabs and I'll see which is match this value using ID. Right, if you see, this is, I match ID here. So hidden, show this, hide every other stuff. So on change I am doing this. This is the bit of you, if you understood this HTML or how these fields are built, you can easily write. This is straightforward. This is straightforward. Now it should work. Whenever I change something on first load, this method will be called by passing this value, so it will find, and again on change, again the same method is being called. So now let me try this one more time here. Now let me close everything and close this. Let me open dialog. So if you see, when I open, because in first my author 5 was selected, so on load this tab was visible. So if I change here, come back and say 7 is chosen, and I hope you understood. If you have any question, add your comment. Thank you.